We're going to get it together here. Is it a weekly thing now? We're picking free agents because I like this segment. I'm having fun with it, Bo.
Absolutely. We've got, we're going offense, we're going defense, one player each side of the football a couple times a week. But what kind of spurred this one on today, just scrolling Instagram, and Pro Football Focus put up a couple good fits across the league as far as some of the big name free agents. And Brian Burns from the Carolina Panthers, they had the Arizona Cardinals attached to Brian Burns, which is a name we've already bandied about a couple times. Here it is. Here's the post. Pro Football Focus. They like Cardinals getting the edge at, 25 years old. He's already been so productive in this league. That would be a massive get for Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon. It's very similar to what Hassan Reddick brought to the Cardinals in Jonathan Gannon's second season as DC in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love trading 27 for him straight up. Is he going to hit the market? Are the Carolina or could you finagle something else where it's a different kind of pick swap? I feel like the Panthers have no leverage here. They have no draft resources. They have a little bit of money to spend. They got to spend it on offense. They've tried this with Brian Burns and subsequently Derek Brown. You're not winning games that way. I feel like take your comp pick, take your medicine, and move on. Like, go spend money elsewhere, make trades and big moves to help Bryce Young. But I don't know. If I'm Ossenfort, I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'll call their bluff. Like, you're gonna franchise tag him? Then what are you gonna do? You're gonna have $25 million you can't spend this year. So I would, first of all, if he reaches free agency, I will hold it against this franchise till I'm in the 6 feet under in the ground if they do not pursue him heavily. Because he makes all the sense in the world. And I mean, he's somebody the Rams tried to trade for him 2 years ago for like 2 1s. I mean, you talk about just butchering time after time. It's like what the Cardinals did with Patrick Peterson. You got to strike when the iron's hot. Brian Burns has all the leverage here.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think at this point it's one of those relationships that has been rocky for a couple seasons now, not just recently. And it's inevitably going to end in divorce. So if you can recoup anything, I mean, I think that the asking price would be maybe a third and some change at the very least, but most likely you could drive it up second, maybe into the first round, which might be worth it at this point for the Arizona Cardinals. Sign him to an extension, and it's a little bit easier than having to absorb all that cap money in year one for Brian Burns and then letting him hit the open market the following season. But, I mean, look, you have it reliably sourced. The Arizona Cardinals are going to invest in 2 spots this offseason, and it's going to be that front 7 on the defensive side of the football and then the outside corner spot. So, and I think when we look at our 2 guys that we picked and identified as targets for the Arizona Cardinals, those are guys that we kept that report that you had in mind.
Yeah, and again, real quick with Brian Burns, I think go to Washington and what the Bears subsequently traded for Montez Sweat. I know it's not apples to oranges. This is a high second-round pick. So, if you want to float 35 to them and say, well, we just saw this situation unfold. It's not our fault that you didn't sell off of him 2 years ago and could have gotten more. This is the reality of the situation. So,
yeah,
I think
Washington dropped the ball with Trent Williams a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I think some organizations have been smarter than that. Carolina is one of the worst run organizations, if not the worst run organization in the league. But they had Trent Williams where they were going to get a third in a compensatory pick at best, and then they got a 5th. They traded him for a third and a 5th, so they got a 5th on top of that. Really, it's brutal. So you can hopefully they misplay their hand that poorly, but they'll have somebody. Suitors, they'll have a couple people lining up to get Brian Burns.
It's an offensive rich draft. If they were smart, they try to get picks and invest them for their young quarterback, because that's their livelihood right now. Turning our attention again to our defensive target of the week here. Bo, you go ahead and kick us off because you went a different route in terms of the position that I went. Tell us about your player and the rationale behind it.
Yeah, you're so gracious. Always letting me go first. That's so nice of you.
So let's say maybe the most humble.
Brian Burns is a big name, and I think, like we said before, as we started to reveal these last week, we're going to pace ourselves. We're not just going to throw the biggest names that could be available this offseason. We want to save those for down the road. But I think that this guy very well could find his way playing in the defensive secondary for the Arizona Cardinals. Steven Nelson, you saw him make a big play on Saturday against Joe Flacco and those poor Browns. Steven Nelson, the vet, He's 30 years old, had 4 picks during the regular season, 6 pass breakups, and a completion percentage of just 59% against him. He was legit for the Houston Texans. And what does that C stand for on his jersey in this picture here? Well, that stands for captain. He's well respected by his teammates. If Houston lets him get away, and Jonathan Gannon, unprovoked when he was previewing and talking to the press, us media members leading up to the Texans game this week, he mentioned Steven Nelson. I think he's somebody that he has a whole lot of respect for and what he's able to do on and off the field for the Texans organization.
Who did he play for in 2021? Oh, that's interesting. Philadelphia under Jonathan Gannon.
That's right.
Where he had a great season and turned into a big contract with Houston. This is exactly what the Cardinals, I think, are going to do this offseason. Like, do not get scared off by the mileage or the year or the age. They are desperate. I've been told desperate for starting experience at cornerback. Again, we talk about it week after week, day after day. They like the young talent. They're going to add to it. I could see another mid-round corner that they're going to develop. They want to be able to add 1 to 2 minimum starting caliber veteran corners to help them get this group to the next level. I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't think that they're going to go 4 years, $80 million for a number 1 corner in free agency when, number 1, Jonathan Gannon trusts himself and his coaching staff to elevate. Number 2, they just want guys to be in the right spot. Like, he had Antonio Hamilton playing well at the end of the season. Like, think what he could do with a Stevie Nelson. That's the exact kind of move I think the Cardinals will make. They will sign 1 to 3 guys of that caliber. Couple 2-year deals, maybe a 3-year deal for somebody that's under 30 years old. Maybe they trade for somebody. I still very much feel like I saw somebody in the chat put Marcus Lattimore, or excuse me, Lattimore of the Saints. What's his first name? Marshawn Lattimore, excuse me. Somebody who has a big money contract for a team that, like the Saints, like some of these other teams, is transitioning to a rebuild, is transitioning to offense. They need assets. They need resources. The Cardinals are going to be in that business. I can't tell you what player that is. I don't know what player that is. But I was told definitively, watch out for the trade market for expensive veteran quarterbacks who, by the way, are not washed. They're just too expensive. They're a luxury for the team that they're on. So Lattimore would fall under that category. I think Lattimore or somebody like that, or a Darius Slay, if the Philadelphia Eagles were willing, and then a Stevie Nelson, that's the kind of move that I think the Cardinals are going to make.
If the Arizona Cardinals, like you say, get 3 players of that caliber in free agency, and then they supplement it with their draft capital, man, oh man, does it just change the complete complexion of this defense? I mean, you give Nick Rallis, like, Howie Roseman gave Jonathan Gannon, an absolute shot in the arm boost from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah.
And like, I think Lattimore, I was going to maybe table this, but you guys 4-star hand, damn it. Like, it's a long off season, but Lattimore, they had a couple of I think Mickey Loomis speaking today, and Nick Underhill, who covers the Saints so well over there. He had a quote that he didn't want to give too much insight on why they restructured some of Lattimore's contract, but it's basically the precursor to making him tradable. And what he's going to make next season, very affordable cap-wise. Then after that, it goes up, and then it goes back down. And you've got some wiggle room there with Lattimore. And I think he's around like 27.
Yes.
Obviously you'd like to see him play more and be more available than he's been the last 2 seasons. But he really reminds me of Darius Slay, who came in, like you said, like to JG's defense and really was kind of the veteran presence that got that defense rolling in the right direction by the end of year 1 and into year 2.
And by the way, what'd they give up for Darius Slay? A 3rd rounder. And I think for Marshawn Lattimore, keep trying to call him Marcus Lattimore, the famed running back that blew out his knee. I think it would be about the same. Cardinals aren't going to give up pick 35 for Lattimore, but like maybe their 2nd, 3rd, the Tennessee 3rd, that's like 71.
Sign me up.
That feels about right. I think we'd all be celebrating. We can get creative on this podcast because I trust the Cardinals are going to get creative with their secondary. So Stevie Nelson, Lattimore, you're suddenly cooking with gas with Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, Garrett Williams, Keitrell Clark in year 2, Starlin Thomas. You could still draft a cornerback, a developmental guy. But to me, it's like all that's moot if your front seven is big time ass again. Like your front seven needs everything, which is why like I feel like it's my job every time we do this to say, hey, enough of the secondary party. It's fun. It's fun to play press man. Who's pushing people around up front on your defensive line? So for the second consecutive week, if you're sensing a theme here, congratulations. I'm going defensive line for the Cardinals because it is mandatory. I went Christian Wilkins last time. How about look in the division for somebody I think a little bit cheaper that you could buy low on, subsequently under 30 years old? Let's see it, Damon Dog. It's Leonard Williams. Once upon a time, a New York Jet, a New York Giant, has an ability to rush the passer, a dominant at times 5 technique. He's 29 years old. Again, if you're yelling and screaming through your computer, through your phone, we need somebody 25, 26, point that person out to me. Are they available? They are not, because they don't become available. Cardinals are going to have to draft and develop their own, but they need somebody now. 5.5 sacks, 76.2 PFF rating, 1 pass defended this year. Was very good for Seattle. Was not a good fit, though. I read articles at the end of the year. I pulled them up today. Like, it got ugly between the two parties. And guess what? Pete Carroll's gone, which means Leonard Williams is gone. So I think Leonard Williams hits the open market. The projection for him is somewhere around 3 years, which I would imagine the first 2 are going to be guaranteed. Sign me up. Like, this is what you need. This is a guy who's been on playoff teams. This is a guy who was drafted high out of USC, immense talent. Now he's missed some time. He only played 10 games this year. But look at the production. Like, we know if you can keep him healthy, and the Cardinals like to run, as you always tell me, 6 to 8 deep on their defensive line, he can come in and make his presence felt. So, again, none of these defensive linemen that I'm posing to you guys week after week are going to be perfect. If they were perfect, they wouldn't be available. But you got to roll the dice on somebody. And I think Leonard Williams would be a heck of a start.
But it's an upgrade over, what the pool of guys you were picking from last year. I mean, we were shining up, LJ Collier, who also just came from Seattle, and he wasn't available this season because of a bicep tear, and Carlos Watkins. And like Leonard Williams is a guy that's played some significant snaps in the NFL, as talented as they come, and get him under JG and Rollis, and they were a guy Collier playing at the highest level he'd played up until that point before the injury. I'd love to see him get their hands on a guy like Leonard Williams. I love it. It's a great bit. I want it to continue on throughout our off-season series where you're the iconic, where's the beef lady? Like, where is it? In your butcher box. You're delivering the beef to the Arizona Cardinals because it's absolutely necessary right now. With Lecky Fotu exiting via free agency, I know they can probably easily bring back Jonathan Ledbetter as an exclusive rights free agent, and you like what you saw from Dante Stills, but man, they need to add a ton of bodies to that defensive rotation, and you get a player like Leonard Williams, and then you add somebody in day 2 or day 3 of the draft, let's say Chris Jenkins or Tavondre Sweat, man, that defensive front looks a lot better and different.
What about Marvin at 4? Jordan Morgan at 27, Chris Jenkins at 35. You trade one of your thirds for Marshawn Lattimore. Suddenly, we feel pretty good about this team. Pretty good about the prospects with this team.
Yeah. I mean, you got Buddha and Jalen already. You got JT in there, and you've got Kazir White in the middle, and then you start hitting some premium pieces like the corner spot, an edge, and then some beef. My God, you got yourself a defense, and it's a far cry from where you were, and you were crying when some of those teams, those offenses were marching down the field. It was part of the strategy. Their defense was so bad that they shortened the field for the opposing offense against Philly so they could be in a position to win that football game. It's those days. I think that's the last time we'll probably see that strategy deployed by JG and crew. But man, can they really reshape things this offseason?
I think you just got to be optimistic because you saw what Gannon did when respectfully, the bottom of the barrel, you just had no resources, and he's keeping games close with smoke and mirrors and duct tape and popsicle sticks. And it's just like, okay, like I trust he knows what he's doing. Go get Leonard Williams. Go get Christian Wilkins. Go do some stuff in free agency and subsequently in the draft and later rounds. Like I trust this coaching staff exponentially, specifically with this defense.